Are you trying to set good habits this year? Have you found yourself sabotaging your habits in the past? A client recently asked me to help her stick with her new habits. So she had a short list of fitness habits that she wanted to implement. Lift weights 3 times a week, walk on the off days, drink 2 liters of water a day, and eat a protein-packed breakfast. These are all great goals. But if I'm supposed to help her stick with these, we need to take a step back and remember what her dream or vision is for her year. She told me her dream is to have a level 10 marriage. Do you see an issue here? Her habits and goals have nothing to do with her dream. Should she try to stay disciplined this year with the goals she chose, or should she choose new goals that are aligned with her dream of the year? That's what we're breaking down today in our show. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Weekly Fellowship, the space that brings faith-filled women together to inspire and empower each other. I'm your host, Reagan Clement. I'm a life coach and the proud founder of the Rising Tide Fellowship. Today, our gathering is fueled by the belief that one of the best ways to support our God-given goals is to spend time among high-quality people, encouraging you, setting high standards, and making your struggles and your infinite growth feel normal. Brought to you by the Rising Tide Fellowship, we're more than just a community. We're a gathering of growth-minded women of faith engaging in group discussions, Bible studies, book clubs, and online courses. Our coaching collective, comprised of specialists catering to women in different seasons of life, supports and uplifts each member, guiding them toward peace, virtue, and fulfillment. Weekly Fellowship is not just a podcast or a YouTube video, it's a space where we come together every Thursday at 12 p.m. Central for a live, interactive, podcast-style conversation. This is where we share insights for your life in an engaging format, and here's the best part. At the 30-minute mark, we invite you to bring your ideas, perspectives, and questions to the conversation. Your voice matters, and we truly value the connection that we are building here. Our first season, How We Became Disciplined Women, is a journey into transformation. In 10 episodes, we'll share the details of what finally transformed us from stressed out list makers into the peaceful women who can actually finally follow through. So whether you're joining us during your commute, your workout, or a quiet moment of reflection, thank you for being here. Subscribe now to Weekly Fellowship and become part of this incredible community. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So welcome to a rising tide of incredible women. Okay, so joining us today is a certified wholeness coach who has been coaching women on lifestyle and health for many years. She focuses on helping women open up the connection between the head and the heart. Thank you for being here, Julie.
Hey, you're welcome, Reagan. I'm honored to be here. I truly am. And as I listen to you talk about women of discipline, I'm like, okay, yes, that's a good thing to continually work toward and master. So yes, yeah, great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, last week was, working on that word. Discipline is training. So it's not an arrival. We're all in training. We're all constantly moving toward being a better version of ourselves, a more Christ-like version of ourselves. And that means that we are disciplined. I think not very many women would openly say, I am a woman of discipline, but that's what we're working on. That's what we're hoping our listeners feel by the end of this season. So today's topic is how to stop sabotaging your goals. We're going to be sharing some insights into why you've been sabotaging your goals and how to shift into a place where you feel safe to achieve brave new things. So first, are your goals aligned with your dream or vision for the year? In our introduction, I shared an example of what it looks like to put our goals, really to put goals on yourself that are not aligned with your dream. And you probably thought it's fairly obvious in that we will not stay motivated or disciplined when we're working in the wrong direction. When our goals are not aligned with what we really want underneath. So if we subconsciously are sabotaging our goals because they're not what we really want underneath, that's actually kind of a good thing I don't even want to complain about that. Thank you, body. Thank you, brain, for sabotaging something that I don't really even want. It's almost like our brain is keeping us safe from choosing the wrong things. The problem is that when we sabotage our misaligned goals like that and we don't realize it, even though it's a good thing, we feel really bad about it. And so we feel like losers, failures. And we use the word, oh, I wish I could be more disciplined, or I'm so undisciplined. I hear that a lot. I must not be holy enough to follow through. I must not be strong enough to do these. I'm not like you. And thoughts like these will actually destroy our chances of success, of happiness, holiness, of what we really want. Thoughts like these do not produce fruit in our lives. And we want to cut off and prune anything that's not producing fruit. So that's kind of the first part of why we sabotage. Another big part of this, a common way that we sabotage in a different way, is because we don't actually feel safe in the dream. So, some of us haven't dreamed yet. I was one of those who had never dreamed. Some of us already know our dream, and we aren't actually achieving it yet because we don't feel safe in that future version of ourselves. So here's an example. If you have a dream to homestead, but when you go in and you really imagine yourself homesteading, you feel scared and your brain starts to think of all the ways that this is never going to work. And your brain is going to find ways to stop you from homesteading in order to keep you safe. So kind of like the first example, our brain stopped us from chasing the wrong thing. In this case, it could be the right thing, but it doesn't feel safe because right now we're only seeing the negatives. So through dreaming and imagining the dream and kind of going into that homesteading version and really working through each of our reservations, we can actually start to convince our brain that homesteading is safer than not homesteading, right? We can actually convince our brains that the dream is safer than the current reality. And then what will happen when our brain thinks that our future, our dream is safer than now? We will start subconsciously doing all kinds of actions and thoughts and emotions that move us toward the dream. In this example, homesteading. So really the starting place for each of us to achieve our goals, follow through with our habits, to become women of discipline, is to discover what our dream or our vision is for our life. So Julie, I kind of want to open it up to you. Have you struggled with dreaming or creating a vision for your life?
Yes, I can answer that with a plain good old big yes. Probably, my whole life. Yes. It's, as a kid, dreamed a lot, you'd watch TV and I'd transport myself to different places. Disney was a big one. So I always wanted to be that, that princess, to be loved and to be honored and cherished. And so that's what I was always looking for that. Um, it just, yeah, I was always looking for that. And it struggling came probably because I didn't really know what a dream was, or the desires. I had many aspirations, I had desires. Growing up in school, I love music. I always wanted to play the piano. I would, we didn't have microphones then, but we'd hold up something and, lip sync or sing along with something on the radio. And, so being a singer, piano player, all those things. But I wasn't in a home environment that fostered the growth of those dreams or talents. And it was more an attitude of put yourself back into our world, which is serving your parents and their will for you and their desires for you. So it wasn't nourished, that growth mindset. There was always something in me though that had different thoughts, and that didn't set well at home because then I was like not obeying or obedient. So I kept on, and you can't ignore the nudge, I guess, that the nudge kept going. And that's that nudge, and that, like, that knock on the door saying, Jesus calling me to a deeper place, which has been a lifelong journey. Yes.
You mentioned Disney, and I hear this a lot with dreaming. And I was one of these people too. My story is that when I had my first coaching consultation, and they tried to Olivia asked me, like, what's your dream? Let's go ahead and discover that a little bit. I told her, I'm not a dreamer. My husband's the dreamer. I'm the doer. And she just kind of was so patient with me to have such a settled, sad mindset about it. But I hear a lot of other people say that too. They say, that's just pie in the sky, Disney fairy tale stuff. So how did you kind of get out of that mentality of, okay, I actually do need to dream. This isn't just make believe.
I think the first time that I really brought dreaming home was when I was in my early 30s, mid 30s. And I'm double that at this point in time in life. But I was asked to join well, it was Mary Kay Cosmetics. So I was, selling makeup, helping people feel good. So it was a lot like nursing, only it was just making them feel better in a different way. And it was then that these women who were very successful, it says God first, is family, God first, family second, career third. So I began to ask myself that, but also part of that whole process of being a successful beauty consultant was to dream. And that was hard because I came from a world where suffering and sacrifice needed to be, your stable as your staple, and wanting more was kind of wrong. So that mindset of moving into what I desired or dreamt was really, really hard for me. But that began the process. And it also began the process at the same time as wondering, is God first in my life? And yeah, I just, it was then that the door kind of opened up to me to Bible studies. We didn't do Bible studies at that point, and this was in a Protestant church, and I'm like, okay, this is good. There's a lot of positive stuff in the Bible. It's not all sad and hard and weary. I'm like, oh, and the verse that strikes out to me as a very first one that really began the path of dreaming was, I have plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And I'm like, seriously, he wants more for us. And so that began my growth mindset. I'll put that word on it now because that's what it was. But that's what really tripped me. I think, oh, he wants happiness for me. Oh, yeah, that's right. He created paradise for Adam and Eve. That's what he wants for us. And yet that was not my environment. And so yeah, that was the beginning, I have to say. It was like, is God first? Um, and he wasn't. I'll just be honest. He was not first. I thought I worked hard. I was in a really struggling marriage. I worked as a nurse. So it was shift work. You're always giving all day. My whole entire life was giving to other people, and I poured nothing back into myself to the point of deprivation, to the point where literally I was exhausted all the time. There was nothing left of me. And I would tell people I'm living on the fumes of the Holy Spirit. Um, and it was very true. It was very true. There was nothing left of me. And so, I think of you, and I know you have that story about the foxhole, being in the foxhole. And it's like, that was my foxhole. It's like, okay, there's nothing left of me. And I didn't know that I needed to decrease so God could increase in me. And that began my journey of really knowing God, knowing who he was. When you know God, you love God. When you love God, you want to serve him and do whatever he wants. So that was a while ago. Yeah. And it's been a growth process ever since. And I've always been waiting, wanting to arrive. And then I realized, oh, well, we don't arrive until we're gone and in heaven. So that's not a possible thing. So then I realized that I struggle with perfectionism. So yeah.
Oh, just you, huh? Not me, not anybody else. It's all of us.
Uh,
I I want to thank
that
you.
pig pen of pride thinking you're the only one, right?
Yes.
They write books about it, but it's just you.
I want to thank you for mentioning that it's like a false dichotomy in your mind, and it's some people have, and it's not God teaching us this, it's our Christian culture teaching us. It's someone who taught us this falsely,
Mhm.
that dreaming is bad, it's selfish. Looking for a vision and personal growth is secular and selfish and bad, versus this shift that you made where it's like, I'm going to dream with God. I'm going to believe his scripture. I'm going to believe his word. and he wants to prosper me. So I'm not prospering right now. So he's, the foxhole that you mentioned, like I dug my heels in so hard into a life of small sacrifice. I am not going to dream. I'm a good Christian girl, and I'm just going to keep my head down and just live a good life until it was terrible. I mean, everything was bad, and it felt like God was trying to smoke me out of my foxhole. And and so it wasn't until everything, fell off, the wheels fell off the wagon for me, that it was like, okay, God, I'll try a different way. And it's not a secular way like I thought it was. I thought like, oh, I'm not going to go do your self-help stuff, but dreaming with God, of being, like saint stories of going, what is impossible for God? Nothing's impossible for God. Why am I living this like really sour-faced life when that's not what he's calling me to do? So I love to see that juxtaposition, because I know that in our circles today, I can't remember who said this quote, but it says, from sour-faced saints, Lord deliver us. And sometimes when we go to church, or we're in church circles, or we're in Bible studies, sometimes it can be like really down on getting support for your mind, and getting really growing in your growth mindset with God. And so just that wasn't really supposed to be a part of this conversation, but I just so appreciate that, because I think that's an interior struggle for a lot of us who grew up in Christian homes, but we were kind of taught the culture's narrative of the time, which was like sacrifice, hard things, heads down, be realistic, not pie in the sky. And while that can be really good, we've also misinterpreted a lot of it to not align our life with God's vision. And his vision is bigger than ours every time. So just thank you for sharing that. Um, there was another part here that you mentioned, and we'll kind of move, but what was something that helped you pivot from feeling unsafe in your future vision, like when you made a vision for your life and it didn't feel safe, and so you were sabotaging your goals and your action stuff? What kind of helped you to feel safe and lean into dreaming?
I really, a big part is I had to let go. I had to detach
Mhm.
from the outcome, basically. I had to just, I always say, like, hand off things here, and actually a friend of mine gave me a little bracelet. It was HIO, and it's handed over. And I'm like, okay, I got to quit carrying all this and hand it over and truly decrease so he can increase in me. And that's been hard because I had no history of anybody supporting me, loving me the way I needed to be loved. I didn't feel it anywhere in my life, except maybe with my children and their babies. And then patients that I served in the hospital, that's where I got my gratification, always was at work. And so work was my out. So the pivoting was, okay, truly, there was nothing left of me. I started seeing a naturopath, and she did labs on me that looked at your neurotransmitters, which is your epinephrine, norepinephrine, your GABA, your histamine, all the things that kind of drive you, and those are secreted by your adrenal gland. But any excitatory neurotransmitter, she said she had never seen levels so low. And I said, oh, she said, I don't know how you're existing. And I said, I'm not. I said, I'm living outside of myself. And I said, oh, so when I say I'm living on the fumes of the Holy Spirit, that's true. And she said, yeah. And I'm like, okay. That was just like, okay, I have to do something because my health was going downhill dramatically. I thought it was good to just sleep 4 to 6 hours a night. I had 4 children. We lived on a farm, so there's no you want routine. Yes, the cows need to be milked at the right time, but then the cows get out in the middle of the night, or I worked 3 to 11. There was never a solid routine because your shift changes, or the cows calve, or they go dry, and then there's field work to do. So that pivot came out of necessity, because if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to keep getting what I'm getting. And I said, and at that point too, my marriage was really, I had to get out. And I kept going to counselors, kept talking to clergy, and everybody gave me permission So it's okay, Julie. God will still love you if you leave. Um, and but I just thought, oh, I just needed permission from God or the Pope or something to get out. But I had to, because if I don't get out, I'm gonna die. So that caused the shift. And when I did leave then, sad part is 3 years later, my one of my arteries in my heart was 100% blocked. And so I was 49 years old at that time, and the doctor told my kids, if your mom wasn't doing what she was doing to take care of herself, she would have suffered a fatal heart attack. So that was a big, when my heart was involved, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's my heart. I can't live without my heart. That was another major shift. So it's been processing all along. And dreaming was not part of that, because my mom, when I talked to her about my marriage and struggles with it, she said, you watched too much Disney when you were a girl. you know and well, yeah, like you're waiting for your knight in shining armor. And so dreaming was put down. So at that point, I'm like, I have to get out of that old world, those old tapes, and rethink this and structure this, because he wants what's good for me. And so I had, like you said, you have to find your world, the people that support that. And one of my advisors told me, um, she said, you have so much. She said, you have to get out of this world. I'm like, well, what do you mean? That's where I live, she meant you have to live in God's world, and then it's not going to be hard. So that was a pivoting moment for me when she said, you are not of this world. But I was living in this world and of this world. And she said, you have to not live in this world. It's not so you're going to have conflict when you don't live in this world. So there's just been so many pieces. And when I look back, I thought, well, God certainly graced me along the way with those people to help me open my eyes to that dreaming. And yeah, and another pivotal moment was when I did the master class, The Art of Being a Woman. And I started to like myself again and realize, oh, I am good. I am worthy. And I had to change my mindsets in a lot of areas, and including dreaming. And like you, when I met with my coach, what's your dream? I struggled, and I had been a dreamer, but I had let that go for 10, 15 years. Well, you know what? You heard parts of my story, just nothing ever turned out. So what's your dream? And I go, well, I don't know. And then I, and then I like, well, I always dreamt of being a speaker. And like apparently, you whisper it because you're like, well, it's kind of how can I do
Yeah.
it? Because then all the like, well, you're kind of old for that now, you never, or comparing yourself to the TED Talk people, and but it's still, yeah, I can put that away on the shelf and then revisit my dreams, and it still comes. So that too, yeah, dreaming. So dreaming, it was a struggle, or is a struggle. Um, but the more what your desires are and what you want and don't want, then your dreams can become real. And another thing that really touched me was like, if you don't dream, you're letting somebody else run your life.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh, I don't want anybody running my life. Um,
mm.
so that was good. The only one we should let run our lives is God in that direction. But yeah, when you think about it, if you don't have a dream, you're just being somebody for somebody else all the time. You're living your whole life, and we are here to serve, but not to the point. You're not like a doormat though, that people walk on. And that was my life. That was my life. And it wasn't a compassionate, kind giving either. It was like,
Mhm.
after a while get that rebelliousness, and just like, and it comes out with, that quick little flip of your mouth that hurts people, because you're so
Mhm.
hurt. So that rebellion comes out when you are not dreaming. So
Yes, yes. Well, and the dream. So I mentioned earlier that that our current reality feels comfortable, and the
mhm.
dream feels unsafe, right? So this is safe, this is unsafe, but it's almost like for you, your current reality got less and less safe. You got sicker. Your marriage was getting worse. Your life was getting worse. You were getting more and more ill. Your heart was about to give out. And so your current, it's almost like that foxhole. Like God's like, this is no longer safe for you to live in this old life, this old narrative, this old tale, this old story. Like, it's time for some new wineskins. Like, let's move you over here. This is safer. And so I just love that so much, because when I'm doing the work of dreaming and really just trying to go in every day and spend a few minutes imagining the dream, that's just the battle. The battle is my current reality feel safe, or is my future feel safe? Something that I mentioned to you the other day is that Coach Audie Gonzalez, shared it with me, and she just, when you're coaching clients, you're giving them a tool, and then they turn it around and give you like great wisdom, and then you have this wisdom forever. And that's part of the most awesome part of coaching, is that we just learn so much from the wisdom of our clients. And something that I learned from Audie was that she said, I imagine Jesus there in my future. I put him there. So if my goal is to homestead, I put him right there on the farm. He's right there in the garden, and I'm about to run to him. Or if your goal is to open a business, like, put him in the storefront. He's there. What's he doing? He's waiting for you. He's got the keys. He's opening it up. Like, if your dream is to have a baby, like, he's walking with you. He's holding the baby with you, like, running to Christ in this future dream that he has put on your heart can convince our brains to feel safe more than anything else that I've done. And that was such a wisdom. And I just wanted to give her to share her wisdom with you guys a little bit, because it was so wonderful. Okay, one more question, Julie. If someone was just getting started with dreaming, what would you suggest?
Okay. I think for one thing, just sit with what you're hearing today in your workshop. Sit there for a little bit and really process what you're hearing. And journal your thoughts. And I think a big step is to, look at what do I no longer want to do? What do I want? They might be opposite, you're gonna want what you don't want. But really, like, what am I sick and tired of? What is my can't stands list and my must haves list? And then your third step would be, okay, I want this. Where do I start? And that's a hard place. You can start with books. You can start with, a lot of things. I think the Rising Tide Fellowship has a lot of options for you in that arena. I did many things over the years, many things, books, retreats, workshops. One area that pulled it all apart, or pulled it all together for me, so I would say coming home to my true self, was I hold my hands on my heart, is to, I realize that, yes, I do need a coach too. Because I thought I could do everything myself, and because I always have. But I took the plunge in and just said, you know what, I'm going to get help, because I am tired of doing this all myself. I can't bear this burden anymore. And I needed some outside eyes into me, so that I could be open and really come home to my true self. So that it's been a process. So that would be a nice suggestion, you know. Um,
Thank you.
yes, you hear that cry, I just spoke to someone last night, and someone, younger 40s, is just like, well, it's just like I'm not here. It's like nobody's. It's like I put myself out there, but people don't see me. I feel alone. I feel that nobody hears me, nobody cares about me, even though I give all of this to everybody else. So some things to just ponder. And in the beginning of the year is nice, but it's never too late to begin again. It's never too late to pick yourself up again. I would say, if there's breath in your body and a desire, you can achieve those things that God has planned for you. And it's never too late, because the world and a lot of your friends and a lot of family can talk you out of your dream. But God puts that in there, and He will equip you with what you need. He doesn't put a desire in our heart that He also does not want you to um, move forward with. It's just, you have to, like, accept His hand and go with Him. And He's got we have a lot of other friends that can help us on that journey too. So that's my thing, is just never, ever, ever settle for anything less than what's inside your heart. And then, if you need to open up that space between the head and the heart, we live in our head, and that's the world. The heart is where our soul and our humility and our childlike heart it resides, and that's what we have to open up this area because this has been so wounded. We want to protect it, and
Mm-hmm.
we protect it, and inadvertently we keep God out because we don't want to. We don't realize that that's what we're doing, but all the things that we're wounded and hurt for that we think came from, maybe our upbringing, we need to allow God in and start that journey in that process. So,
Mm. Well, thank you so much for all this wisdom. It's given me a lot to think about. I know we prepared in advance, but then the conversation never goes. Holy Spirit's always here and giving us something that we weren't prepared for. So thank you so much. Thank you, friends, for joining us today for Weekly Fellowship. We are about to transition to our live conversation with guests. So if you're joining us live, stick around for the next half of the show. Your presence here is truly cherished. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and want to dive deeper into our community of growth-minded women, I invite you to join the Rising Tide Fellowship. Visit risingtidefellowship.com to connect with like-minded souls, engage in enriching discussions, and discover the support you need for your journey.